Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 18 of the Chalk Dinosaur podcast. I'm your host, John O'Halloran.
And on today's episode, for the first time, I tried to do a remote podcast with today's guest, Steve Ippolito of The Clock Reads. We did it with a Google Hangout and tried to get good quality audio and video, and it turned out to be a really big challenge, and a lot of things went wrong, but we got a lot of it. There were a couple parts where mid-conversation the screen capture just stopped recording for some reason, and the audio recording just like stopped for no reason. First time doing it this way, I have no idea why that happened, but caught it pretty quick and started up the conversation. So you might notice at a couple points in the conversation it gets cut off abruptly and then starts up, and we're a little bit disoriented and have to get rolling again.
But anyway, Steve Ippolito is a great drummer for the Clock Reads, a Pittsburgh band, and I first came upon Steve at Farm Jam 2016 when I saw the Clock Reads for the first time, and they were a standout that weekend, and Steve was a standout as well. And if you've never been to Farm Jam Alema, it's wonderful because you can get literally right next to whoever you want to see play. And usually I want to watch the drummers a little bit closer, so I'll literally stand next to the drum riser and watch them bang on those skins. So
since then, we've worked together and here and there in a couple different ways. We played a couple of the same shows, shared some bills. The first one we did together was a Carnegie Mellon orientation event, and it was outdoors, and I remember I offended an old man. I was playing this loud guitar solo, and my amp was turned up pretty loud. It's a Fender twin reverb, but it's got a lot of juice, and it's like a laser beam if it's pointed at you. And this old man was walking down the sidewalk minding his own business, and I'm playing this obnoxious solo, and when he walks in front of my amp, I see him wince in pain and cover his ears, and I felt pretty bad about that. I'm sorry. But since then, we've also done a couple collaborative shows where I sit in with the Clock Reads, and we play a set of music that's, different from what they do, different from what I do, kind of just a, collaborative set of different stuff, just kind of, see what happens there. Those are always interesting. And we perform those under the name Clock Dinosaur. I think we've done maybe four of those shows. I've also done some mixing. I mixed one of their live shows, one of their New Year's shows, and mastered the Inner Peaks, and trying to think if and I made a song with Michael Berger, the bass player, called The Chalk Reads, and so a little bit here and there, a little bit of salt over there, a little bit of pepper over here, a little bit of a stew, A stew's a good thing to eat because it has all the stuff you need in one pot. So that's the main message of my stew advocacy program that I'm starting up. Anyway,
please welcome the drummer of the Clock Reads, the fanciest hands on the east side of the Mississippi, Pittsburgh, so the man, the myth, the legend, Steve Ippolito. Steve Ippolito. Here he is. Enjoy the conversation. Stay healthy. Stay entertained. Stay interested in stuff. Do things that excite you in your own way. While you gotta be by yourself, all you gotta do is find something that's interesting and go down that rabbit hole until you know everything about that thing. And then whenever we get let out of the cage here, we can go nuts. Nuts.
Okay, here it is. All right. Cool. So
Alrighty.
I think we're all set up.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
All right. So, yeah, how's the lesson?
Oh, solid. Nothing too exciting. Just, I had a couple makeups today and all that stuff. It's just, I teach a bunch of young kids. I mean, I shouldn't say that. All ages, really. But mostly average, probably average at 12 years old, something like that. I think this kid was 8, though, maybe 8 or 9. Yeah, I don't know. I go through a variety of topics. For him, it's just about a lot of coordination, basically, and doing, the fundamentals, I guess, simple things. I try to focus a lot on fundamentals, and strengthening those across the board, with all my students, really, because I have some who have been playing, let's say, for years, but they never really took the time to really develop their fundamentals. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
then when I ask them to play something, even if it's as easy as just a 16th note pattern on the hi-hat, something like that, it might fall short because they never focused on this sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people will get this besides drummers, but we talk a lot about the orbital motion of your hand. So what the analogy I like to make is, instead of thinking about hitting the surface of a head, with basically just downward momentum, like you're using a hammer or something like that, thinking about it more of as in a circular motion. So a lot of people like to think of drums as or the notes you play on a drum, or really any percussive instrument, as points on a line, very linear, that kind of thing. But what really opened me up to, just change my fundamental, because I used to do that too, just really thinking about all right, I have to hit perfect 16th notes here. But it ended up being robotic sounding, at the end of the time. There wasn't a whole lot of feeling, but then I think it was through learning about the molar stroke. See, this is super drum nerdy kind of thing right now.
No, go for it.
But so the molar stroke is a stroke you do where it's this kind of whip action. In a nutshell, this whip action thing that you kind of do with your hand. I found that out from a guy named Jim Chapin. He's online on YouTube and stuff like that. And then it was further reinforced when I watched this Neil Peart video, actually, rest in peace. And he talked about the orbital motion of playing, where basically instead of taking that points on a line thing that I just mentioned, you really kind of think of it as rhythms are more circular,
Yeah.
So even if you're playing, let's say, eighth notes, 1 and 2, and in between all that, when you're hitting the surface as 1 and 2, and in between all of that is a subdivided 16th note, 1 E and a, 2 E and a. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can make a circle, 1 and 2, and in between, those notes that are dancing in the air, basically, also have value, which I feel like many people don't think about. They're just worried about getting the notes out correctly.
Yeah.
But the notes that kind of dance in the air when you play any percussive instrument are also important. But like I said, like kind of overlooked, and they kind of fall in this orbital motion kind of feeling. So like I said, instead of doing this, I tell them to do more of this motion.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like in a circle, like almost treat it like looking at like an electron shell or something like that. And
Right.
that's where the notes are placed.
Yeah. The actual strike is just, one point in the.
Yeah.
In the
in
motion.
this like shell, you know, in like a, right.
I could see that. Yeah. Cause you could play eighth notes with, like a really stiff stroke or something that, would be a lot different than if you had, we're having like a fluid motion through the time in between the hits.
Right. Yeah. It's the time in between that's actually, it's really important to
keep the motion kind of going, I guess.
Yeah. It keeps things more fluid. That's kind of the thing I try to achieve in my playing, is just being fluid, as Bruce Lee would say, as be like water, you know.
Put it in a teapot, it becomes a teapot.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to become that feeling. Exactly. That's kind of what I try to get at, and it's tough to get that through to younger students.
Yeah.
But I have some other students that are like in their 30s. I have one guy that's in his like 50s. So I try to preach that to them, because they're playing everything I give them pretty much. But when it comes to them getting the feeling down, because like I said, it's one thing to play a groove, but it's another thing to like really feel that and just like make it feel good, like all the great drummers do.
Yeah.
You know, like what really comes like one that would come to mind would be like Steve Gadd. Like he's got like the best feel in the business, in my opinion. So like, so those guys make things just feel good, and that's kind of was like what I was getting at.
Yeah, I could understand that, having like the kinetic chain unbroken. Just
that's a good way to put it.
Have you found it? Did you ever find it difficult, or have to put focus into? Okay, like whenever you was there a point where you started practicing a certain exercise, or like thinking about a certain thing to kind of like try and get on board with the kind of fluidity of your strokes?
Sorry, say that again. What do you mean? I'm trying to.
You said at a certain point you started doing that motion, like the circular.
Oh,
motion.
yeah.
Was there something that you like practiced, or that you get your students to practice to try and reinforce that concept?
Yeah, kind of. I tell them to like exaggerate the motion, just like almost like literally, like I've also mentioned like wax on, wax off. Like that's like that's almost the motion.
Yeah.
Except you're just doing it one way, really. So just like you take it to one drum, really, just like on a practice pad, and, start doing this, like I said, it's kind of like a whip action kind of thing.
Yeah.
To get them kind of feeling that. I don't have any specific exercises really that I've come across or made up, but rather just like try to imitate what I'm doing. Which, since I've been doing these online lessons because of, what we're going through right now, it's been harder for them to kind of grasp that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's kind of something that needs to be taught in person. I mean, I firmly believe all lessons should be in person to really make an impact. But
yeah, how has that been going with over the past month or so?
Not bad. I mean, like I had about 25 private students that I was teaching in-house at In Stuff Music.
Oh, nice.
And so like I'm still employed with them, which is nice. It's my only source of income right now. All my gigs are gone. The coffee shop I work at is furloughed. So yeah, I mean, I'm fortunate to have some kind of work happening. I did lose some students. They were like, "Oh, I don't have a drum set," even though I told them like they don't even need a drum set, you can just have a pad and some sticks.
Yeah.
But they just like weren't into it. And then, you know, I get it because like people are under a bit of financial strain and with some things.
Right.
So I went from like 25 students to like 19. So I didn't lose.
All right, let's keep going and see how far we get.
Sure. Yeah, that's cool. I don't know. Did you? Did you want to keep? I forget. I honestly forget what we were just talking about. So you can just ask me whatever.
Yeah. You want to talk about how you got involved with the guys in the Clock Reeds and that band, and
yeah, kind of like the genesis of the band for a bit.
Yeah, from your perspective.
Yeah, sure. So that was like when we were all going to Pitt. We all graduated Pitt at one point or another. And trying to think. It was I met John O'Brien first. He lived on Ward Street in South Oakland, which eventually became like our first practice site. And that house was something for sure. It was very much just like I don't even know how to describe it. It was a good time, a lot of good memories there, but just like a den, like a college den.
Yeah, I know
that. Just you could probably just imagine just a lot of debauchery, I'm sure, went on in that house before I was even involved. But yeah, it basically came through, Dante, my roommate at the time, introduced me to John. And funny enough, they had went to the same high school together, but really weren't friends in high school, but reconnected somehow. I forget how exactly, but so he brought me over to his place one time when they were like hanging, and then I found out like, oh, John played guitar, and so he had a drum set in his room and we just jammed. We did like a duo jam. We were like super into the Black Keys at that time, and I still like the Black Keys, not too much, not like their new stuff too much anymore. But we kind of did a jam like that, where he just like turned up his distortion and gain super high, and we just kind of like did a blues rock jam. And then we looked at each other like, sweet, like one of those moments, just kind of like, this is cool. I think this could work in some capacity. And then he mentioned he knew a bass player, which was Aiden Epstein at the time, wasn't Berger, who was, eventually became the bass player. But it was our buddy Aiden, or John's, I should say. It was originally John's friend Aiden, who was he was in the Pitt Jazz Band at the time. We were both doing music. John specifically, he was like going for the music degree. I ended up not actually getting a music degree at Pitt. But I pretty much did everything music that I could, because that's all I was really interested in. But anyway, so we like hooked up with Aiden. He came over, he started playing with us, and we liked this trio that we were doing. I remember it's probably still out there somewhere, maybe on like the depths of SoundCloud. But there is a track, the three of us just jamming over this 1/4 progression, and we called it Elevator to the Moon. And it's pretty funny. If I find it, I'll definitely send it to you, or I'll ask John.
I'd like to hear it.
And we just like went and just had like a endless jam on this progression for a long time. Just had fun with it. It was nothing serious. We just came together to play. And then we just kind of kept playing. No gigs were booked at that time or anything. We just kind of kept playing. And then separate to that, it was kind of like two halves became a whole at one point, because like I had John and Aiden on one side, and then on a completely separate side, I met Jason and Berger. And I met Berger through my buddy Alex, who was like in a couple classes that I was taking. and he was a guitarist slash drummer, and he said, I know a really good bass player, Berger. He's like, why don't you go? Why don't we hang out with him? So we hung out, and Jason just so happened to live in the same apartment building as Berger. Funny enough, Berger and Jason also went to the same high school together, but so it's kind of weird how those two things, like two separate sides of the story, both had a similar background story. So we played, and then, so fast forward a little bit, I booked a trio gig with Jason and Berger. Yeah. Shoot. I'm actually forgetting if it was Berger or Aiden. In this original trio, wasn't the clock yet, right? It was just the trio that we had in the now defunct Pub IG, which is below a restaurant, an Indian restaurant now on Atwood Street. Well, it's not a thing anymore though. They tried to bring it back like a couple years ago, and it just failed again. But Pub IG was like where the Clock had their first gigs, and we had a trio thing there with Jason, and I'm gonna say it was Aiden. Me, Jason, and Aiden did a thing, and John was in the crowd and loved it, and came up to us, and just like, we got to start something, like this is cool. Like I also play. So that was like the genesis of it, was just playing this one gig at Pub IG where we had a pretty good crowd, surprisingly, just a bunch of Oakland college kids who came out to drink. And so we just kind of started something from there, just laid down some recordings at John's house at one point. And Berger would come in, and Berger was like friendly with us, so he would come in and kind of maybe trade off with Aiden a few times and play bass. Aiden was the bass player at that time. So then fast forward a little bit, we started playing some house shows at a place called Zulima. I think they called it the Shark Tank, if I remember. That was like a classic thing to do, just, play these basement shows. Most of them were just like super indie rock. So we were like the only like jammy sort of jazzy group that was happening I guess in that kind of scene.
Yeah.
But all our friends were there, so we're just like, yeah, we'll play your house show. Sweet. for no money, just for fun.
Yeah.
So we built that up a bit, and we started playing at Uncle Jimmy's in Oakland, also defunct now.
Yeah, I never heard of that one.
That was yeah, I mean, this is before I knew you for sure. That was like basically our home, like where we would like book pretty much all of our shows.
Yeah.
And play at Uncle Jimmy's. It was funny. No one really went to that bar. It was a super divey bar, and honestly not managed too well either. So like, it's not like they had any good advertisement. Everyone went across to another bar called Bootleggers, or affectionately named Boots, across the street. Most of the people went there, and up near main campus. This was like a little more in South Oakland.
Yeah.
But it was funny because all of our friends would basically just take over Uncle Jimmy's. Like it was kind of like just our spot.
Yeah. That's cool.
So we made it our thing, and we started playing shows there. The owner took a liking to it and noticed that we were pulling in a crowd because of it. So because of that, he built us a stage.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he ended up building this like collapsible stage that you would like pull out a pool table and put it in the other side of the room, and then put this in, just made out of, some 2x4s and plywood, I think, or something like that. Maybe something a little stronger, but he would, just throw that there. So then we had a little stage to play on. So we started booking some bands to play with us.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like Shane, Shane McLaughlin from Buffalo Rose. Mm-hmm. He had a band back in the day called Bergman.
Weird.
And yeah, it's a funny name. And they were good. I mean, they were like a really cool, basically a funk quartet. Yeah. It was a quartet. And they were, they were pretty funky. almost gave me like a kind of like a Wolfpack vibe before those guys even existed. So we really liked them. So they came out and did like a show or two with us.
Is that how you met Shane?
Yeah. That's how I became friendly with Shane through Bergman. That whole thing.
Bergman, like Bergman, the name, or like Pittsburgh, Berg?
Oh, like BERG, man.
Okay.
Yeah. I really don't know where it came from, but it was a thing.
I know someone named Bergman.
Bergman.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one. It's not like anyone in the band was named Bergman. It was just their thing. So then they led us to Wilkins Block Party, actually. Oh, so nice. Now we're kind of going through here a little bit.
Was that when it was still on Wilkins?
When it was still on Wilkins, yeah, we played just 1 year there, like right before the last year. Basically, it was on Wilkins.
Okay.
Which was like insane. It was so crowded. I'm glad they moved it.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they're still having it. Well, not this year, but so we like did that. And then we had a bit of a personnel change when Aiden eventually went to Spain, and he did like an exchange program there, like through Pitt. So we needed a bass player to fill in, so Berger ended up filling in, and then he just kind of stuck. We threw Aiden on keys for a little bit, but then that wasn't really his thing, and we respected that. Like, he's a killing bass player, still is. He's in Chicago now, freelancing, doing bass work for, I guess, really anything he can get his hands on.
Yeah.
He's done a couple tours with a band called Diane Coffee. And yeah, that's like the big one that he was doing a tour with. They're more like indie rock. But Aiden's got chops, for sure. He went through the Pitt music program and all that stuff. And great player for sure.
Yeah.
So obviously, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's interesting. I didn't know that. I remember I was surprised when I found out that Aiden played bass, because I only knew him from Clock Reeds when he was playing keyboards, and then I saw him.
Yeah.
And he played with Dhruva in a band, Dhruva Krishna.
Oh yeah,
Manic Soul.
Manic Soul. Yeah, the trio.
And then I saw him in some other stuff, and he was playing bass and everything else, and that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, his heart was definitely more in the bass, and we respected that, so we kind of, let him do his thing. I mean, we were sad to like have him leave, but we kind of understood where it was going, and we liked keys, but we just kind of went with the quartet, 2 guitars, bass, drums.
Yeah.
And then it just kind of took off from there. We just started booking more and more gigs. Did some festivals, played bigger, more higher profile Pittsburgh shows. The Rex Theater really took us in. The Gray Area guys really took us in, and we're trying to like build up our name, which I mean, I think they really did help us with that. We didn't really have any management. I don't think we ever really had management, even up until we like have been taking a pause now. We ended up like getting a booking agent. Our friend Erwin, we met him through a band called the Jaunty, which were Boston based, but then moved to Colorado. So we ended up having a booking agent maybe the last like year or two of the band.
What was that like? Because that's something I've wondered about. Because I haven't had any management or booking, but it seems like that.
Oh, right.
It's like a big piece of every, band that is, on a like a higher level. They all seem to have their team of
right.
people.
Yeah, we saw that as like the next step, in promoting our brand and just getting the name out there. And it helped. I mean, for sure, he got us into venues we probably would have never got into ourselves. So that was really nice. And I mean, he wasn't, it wasn't like too overbearing or anything like that. He would just kind of send us potential dates that he had and like, like a route that he would plan. And and it wasn't always the best, sometimes there would just be like a one-off here and there. So we could try to plan like a string of like, we were like weekend warriors for a while, just just doing these weekend gigs, like doing a string of Ohio gigs, Friday, Saturday, or Thursday, Friday, Saturday, come back Sunday kind of thing.
Yeah.
For you, I mean, yeah, I would look into it. I would maybe even I could even give you Erwin's number. I mean, there's still, but there's like a lot of booking agencies out there. But for you, yeah, I mean, now that especially you have the full band going, for like, the last year or so, and you have a couple records cut with the full band, right? Yeah, I mean, like if you want to start getting on the road more, I think it's the move.
Yeah. It's kind of, we would be limited to just the weekend thing as well.
Yeah.
Just
right.
because everybody's got stuff going on. I mean, although until, you got more popularity, at least for me, it feels like that probably work out better anyway to only play in cities on the weekends when people, because if nobody knows who I am or who Chalk Dinosaur is, and it's like a Tuesday or something, like,
oh no, not worth it. No. Yeah, even some Thursdays or like a weekend show would be a bust. I mean, it also depends what city you're in. Some cities just love live music and will go out to see you, no matter like what it is.
Yeah. Any in particular that you stand out to you, like cities nearby that you liked?
Nearby, like maybe like a couple hours.
Or anywhere really.
Anyway, yeah, Virginia Beach actually was consistently the best.
Really?
Yeah, surprisingly. There's this venue down there called Doc Taylor's, and that place only has music on Thursdays. So because of that, and it's free, there's no cover charge. Because of that, everyone knows to just go there on Thursdays because it's the thing to do.
Yeah.
No matter like what no matter like what month it is, really, either. It could be the summer, it could be dead of winter. I think we played like both. We played like a July show one time and we played a December show one time. And both were great. Like so many people showed up. Like I said, it's free, it's cheap. So people just go there and just have a good time, throw a couple back and just have a good time because there's not a whole lot to do. And they just like live music. So they really dug us. So that's why we went back there a couple times. And that place is awesome. Super hospitable guys. And they just have a good format for what they're doing. Because they're not it's funny. It's mostly just like a bar. It's not really a venue. There's no stage. We're just on the floor. But they still have like a good sound system like that.
Yeah.
So it was like definitely worth it. I think when it comes down to some of these venues that are like, we're a venue kind of thing, like especially like the Rex, and they have like really high overhead costs and have to charge at the door, even if it's pretty cheap. Those are the shows that, especially if you're not very well known, that people might not show up. I mean, we've definitely played to large rooms where there was like 10 or 20 people. Yeah,
sure.
So, kind of rough in that sense, but that's kind of just how you have to cut your teeth with some of those things. But like I said, some cities just like show up.
Yeah.
It's a crapshoot, really,
Interesting.
sometimes.
Would you guys, was there anything in the way of like trying to promote in, if you would book a show in some other city that might be your first, or, well, I guess anytime playing there, like Harrisburg or something, like promoting a show, like how do you, I guess, were you guys ever involved in like promoting in a city outside of Pittsburgh, like things?
I think like just doing online promoting, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely threw a bunch of money at Facebook ads at one point, which like I don't even really know if that helped or not. Sometimes maybe. The thing we didn't take more advantage of was like local radio, and I think that would have helped, but we didn't really think about that too much, nor did we really, I guess, research it too much.
Okay, like to a place you're about to be playing in. So like,
yeah,
okay.
just getting on their local radio station, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
That was kind of like an afterthought, but might have been like the way to go. If we had like friends in town, they would maybe put some flyers up, something like that, try to promote it. The biggest thing is just getting with a local band that draws well.
Yeah.
That's what we would always shoot for, is whoever we're getting matched up with, even if we're a headliner and they're the support, that we would hope that support act, or if we're opening, the headliner, would have a good following to, give us a nice leg up, so we don't walk into the room and there's like 10 people, right?
Yeah.
So that was like a big thing, making sure that the local act was pretty well established, and not just pairing up with like, especially later on, like not just pairing up with a band that like only plays house shows or something like that.
Right.
Some band that had a bit of draw to help us out, and then maybe the next time we went back, maybe we just play by ourselves or with a different band, but people who came out for that first band the last time, now know us. So hopefully, the hope is that they come back again.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. So that's something to think about, is that each city you go to, kind of seek out the local talent that is drawing pretty well, and hooking up with them, which I think you've done that, or I think I've seen you do that in other cities. How did that Chicago gig go?
Okay, yeah, that was like the only that was the only one I could think of. That was good. That turned out really well. Yeah, it was well attended, and
good.
Yeah, everything just went smooth, and yeah, that was the first U.S. case of coronavirus was that weekend in Chicago while we were there.
Oh, wow.
I remember seeing it on the news, be like, oh, what's that?
Jeez. Yeah. Oh, man. That, yeah, it's just, that's wild. I'm glad I wasn't traveling or anything during that week.
Yeah, it would be, yeah, the videos from the airports and stuff were pretty scary. Just how jammed up they got.
Oh, right. Everyone trying to come back in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Did you guys ever do these like weekend runs with other bands? Like, go with a band?
Yeah, we did. Probably one of the best ones was with the band Goose, which is
nice.
like, they've really blown up.
Yeah.
As of late, played some pretty high profile festivals and seem to be selling out around the country now.
Yeah.
Which is great. I'm really happy for them. Yeah. So we did, that was with, when we had the booking agent, Erwin, he hooked us up with that. And we did a 3-night run. I think like one was Philly, Rochester, and Pittsburgh. I forget. But that was solid. They brought people out for sure. They weren't like huge at the time. I think it was probably the year after that we did that they started blowing up.
Mm-hmm.
They opened for some like other big jam bandy bands that I forget the name of. Probably like Spafford maybe.
Okay, yeah.
And so then they started getting some notoriety. Like I said, they played like Peach Fest and like the bigger festivals for sure.
Yeah.
So then they started blowing up because of that. But that run was still pretty solid for all of us. And we had a lot of fun and became good friends with them. And I still chat with them occasionally. So
yeah, that kind of seems like that's something that a lot of bands, I feel like, end up doing at some point. They'll do a run of shows, at least for like a part of another band's tour, and they'll, support another band, and then a lot of times that kind of thing ends up turning into this, them going as their own headliner tour kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a boost, little bump if you can get it.
Yeah,
that's what we were searching for at a time too. Never really came to be with like a really big act. We opened for some bigger acts for sure. But it never really came to be like that. We got like that they asked us to be on a tour or anything like that.
Right. Or yeah.
Like what helped Goose a lot is they jumped on a lot of Pigeons playing ping pong shows, and that helped them because those guys just like sell out, which is insane. So yeah, it's definitely beneficial. You just kind of, it's all about who you know in the industry, really. Just
definitely helps.
Yeah, a lot for sure. Your connections, like you don't have to even be the greatest band in the world to, as long as you pretty much know someone.
For sure, yeah.
They can seriously help bump you up, especially if you're trying to just tour a lot, which just seems like, that's the thing with that scene is just touring and just making a living off live shows and maybe even like streaming your live shows for money if you get to that point.
Yeah.
Recording them, selling merch is huge.
Yeah.
Because not even many major recording artists are making money off their albums anymore, obviously, especially not in the jam scene, just like not a thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're just touring a bunch, and now they can't, which really is unfortunate. What's funny is like I think the clock taking a break right now was like the best time to do so.
Yeah.
But obviously we didn't plan that; it just kind of happened. So yeah, which is definitely a bummer. Like I miss playing gigs. Even locally, I had a ton of local gigs lined up. I've been trying to play with a bunch of other people. One thing I noticed with just playing with the clock was I got kind of stuck in a rut with my playing a little bit, and I was only known as this guy who could just play in this jam band that was doing like decently well. But I knew I could do other things. So now that's like what I've been trying to do since we like decided to take a break, and even before that, like in like this like all 2019 pretty much, I was trying to kind of break out of that and do just different projects and different sounds with people. And I think that's like really the only way to really grow as a musician is just to play with everyone and just get a taste of everything, and then just put it into one and try to just like create your own sound. That's really the kind of ultimate goal of being a player, is to eventually just kind of cultivate your own sound. And that really only comes from just trying to get your hands on as many musical opportunities as possible. So I did a couple singer-songwriter gigs. I mostly do jazz gigs. From just straight ahead swing to more modern stuff, some funk gigs. I even tried to get a country gig at one time. That didn't pan out yet, but it might. I don't know.
Just trying to get a bunch of different experiences.
Yeah, and just because you never know, open you up to something new with your playing. And that's so like gigs were like I learned the most. I think you probably can attest to this. Gigs are probably where you learn the most about your playing, because you could like sit all day and just fiddle with stuff and shed and get faster at what you're doing or learn more lines or whatever. But it's not until you like apply it in a live setting that I just love that spontaneous stuff that comes. We started recording our live shows too, because some live stuff would be like really killing.
Yeah.
And at first I never really liked to listen to myself back. I do more just to like pick up on that stuff that I might not be practicing. And then like you kind of listen for that stuff and critique yourself. And maybe if I like this lick that I threw out, like I'll flesh that out in practice.
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
That's been a huge thing for us too. Just like recording, shows, and also just like jam sessions or practices or something, because you just hear it in a way that you can't hear it when you're playing it, or it's like especially like if you're going into a jam or like some kind of improvisation. Most of the time I don't even remember anything about. I might remember a couple moments of what happened during it, but we might have gotten into something really cool, and none of us would remember like what it was, because like
exactly,
it's just kind of moving.
Right, and I like that spontaneity a lot for sure. But then if you record it and then go back to it, you might be able to even like work a new song out of it or something like that. Or
plenty of ideas that would just be completely just lost. Maybe not lost, like they might come back out later, they might still be up there, but there definitely been a lot of times where listening back to something like an improv session or something is almost like hearing it for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. Something fresh. What have you been doing? Are you recording any new projects while you're quarantined, or are you just like fleshing out old ones or mixing stuff? I don't know.
Yeah, I've just been doing a couple things for like work, which is the background music stuff.
Excuse me.
But aside from that, we've been putting some stuff together. It's not at all like what we were kind of working on when we were all able to get together. Like it's a little different.
Yeah.
We kind of just been messing around, just like we were upstairs last night, just me, Nick, and Andrew, who live here. And just started like making a recording. We'd just jam a little bit, and then kind of once we got something that we thought was cool, we kind of capture like a loop of that and then just kind of build off that. So it's kind of it feels different than whenever we're in a practice room with John playing full volume and like playing in the way we would normally be playing at a show, I guess, like our instruments and stuff. Because here we've got like modified drum setup and like everything's different than how we play. So it's more of like, we've just been kind of recording random ideas.
Okay.
Working on just like trying to get better at producing different kinds of electronic music and but not really. I don't know.
That's cool.
We're thinking about want to do like full band album. We're gonna have to wait to do it because we wanted to kind of get four songs and try and do as much live as we could, like maybe do all the rhythm section live and then maybe save the like go to a studio and do it, which would be different because usually we're doing it at home or
right
wherever our practice area is.
Yeah.
So that'll be different. Try and get the songs down to the point of like as if you had played a song a bunch at shows, how it kind of tightens up and kind of gets dialed in. Try to get it to that point first and then record it.
That's funny you mentioned that because the last record we released, Nomen, we like had it almost done, like 90% done. But most of those recordings we took like a year past almost, and we had like played those songs out a bunch, so they got tighter. Because we pretty much like wrote songs for the studio and went in and played them, but and they were good, but they weren't like basically they didn't sound like, when we went back and listened to them, they didn't sound like us like 9 months later. So we had to go back and like re-record like almost like everything. Oh, not everything, but I re-recorded like 6 or 7 songs off that album. to then fit like what we had done, because we slightly arranged things a little differently, and just like things were tighter in general.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's definitely my mindset too now. If you're going to record an album, is try to play those tunes as much as you can, either in a live setting or a rehearsal, and flesh them out as much as you can before you record them, to just get the most like updated sound as possible. Yeah,
it's kind of definitely, I guess, a balance for where the right point is to record them, I guess. But there's definitely like, I feel like there's definitely a point where it feels like a song down well.
yeah,
we have like one song right now that's at that point, and the other three that we're thinking about are like, they're kind of structured out and stuff, but we haven't played them much. And yeah, it's kind of
takes time.
Yeah, and it's definitely a different approach, because usually we're doing recording like as we're writing, since we're like home recording, and it's usually like layering and kind of doing it that way, which is and it sounds a lot different. Like you were saying, how the first time you recorded the songs for Nomen, it like didn't even sound the same as when you guys had been playing.
Break, rather than give you what we were doing like 9 months before that. Like it was, we recorded most of it, let's say in the end of 2018, and then we went back to it middle of 2019, maybe like in the fall of 2019, and we're like, we're just like, hey, you know what, think needs a little update here.
Yeah.
So we did it, and for the better, for sure.
Yeah.
Just happens that way sometimes.
And you guys recorded that at the Carnegie Mellon recording studio.
Yeah, we've actually recorded all our albums there.
Yeah. What was that like, or like how did that get arranged?
So like from the beginning, well, I'm trying to think who our original contact there was. Oh, well, I think it was because I helped someone with their recording project that was at CMU, or no, it was at Pitt, but the person recording at the time was also the head engineer at CMU. His name's Ricardo Schultz.
Yeah.
And he's like the best person in the world. So he, so I found out through him, and you know what? Going back to Bergman, Shane and Bergman recorded at CMU, and I asked them about it, and he said, you got to talk to Ricardo. And then it just so happened like a month later, I met Ricardo in this recording session I did with like a music technology class, because I was still at Pitt.
Yeah.
And because I like laid down a drum track with my friend Sean and met Ricardo. So then I mentioned to him, I'm like, hey, I have a band, like we're trying to record like our first EP. This is like going back to the first EP in like 2015 or something like that. And he said, yeah. So he was, he helped us out. But what you had to do though is it had to be like through a student. It had to be like a student's project basically. So like the first EP, like we had like a bunch of like undergrads with us, like hooking stuff up and getting the mics ready and even recording us like in Pro Tools and all that stuff. So that was like the trade-off was tracking was free. So that's why we kept doing it also, because tracking was free. But you had to sign off basically saying that this is going to be part of a student's portfolio at one point because they're doing it for school credit. And but like I said, you get free studio time. So we're like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. So we did that for the first album, and then we dug it, so we just kept doing it. But what was nice is by the second album, the Inner Peaks one, we teamed up with a grad student who was like trying to do it for like his project, and so he was more honed in with the studio, and we like really trusted his work. His name's Mike, and
yeah, that was a good sounding album.
Yeah, for sure. All right, yeah, you mastered that one. So he honed in on, you know, what we wanted to do and was really good about it and had some undergraduate work, but he was the one recording and mixing. So that was nice because we trusted him a little more rather than just like a bunch of hands on it, you know, like the first one kind of like was.
Was Noman also Michael?
Yeah, he tracked it. Sort of. He had already graduated, but still had access to the studio. So what he did is he set everything up for us and then supervised other students track us. So he was there for some sessions, but not all of them. Mm-hmm. We gave it to a couple other students who helped us out, but they were under like his tutelage, so we trusted them too. So everything pretty much turned out fine. And then he mixed it, and then Berger's brother Justin mastered it because he works at Sears Sound in New York City. So he had some like pretty legit studio equipment to master it with and plugins and all that fun stuff. So that was cool.
Yeah, that was a really good sounding album, and really good compositions too.
Thanks.
Probably my favorite. Yeah, most kind of thematic sound, I guess. Like very cohesive. Like I don't know how I would describe the sound, but it definitely all went together really well.
I think it was like the sound that we were like finally searching for, kind of thing. After like 4 or 5 years of playing and going through a lot of different collective thought processes, you know, that kind of brought us there, and also like outside influences. I think that was like finally because about halfway through being a band, we were kind of like we didn't want to subscribe to what the jamming sound is, because there's like a sound there that everyone goes for.
Yeah.
And we were definitely guilty of like jumping on that bandwagon for a little while, but then we're like, we don't really like this, you know, it's just not us really. It's like what gets people going in the crowd. And like, I get that. But we didn't want to subscribe to that. We wanted to try to do something that was like true to ourselves and try to push that. Because I think if you subscribe to one thing and just keep at it, like eventually people will catch on, you know.
Especially if it's, you know, your identity, I guess.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We were trying to establish an identity that was different from other bands, and we still had like a couple, you know, things about us here and there. We're still kind of in that framework, you know, like I said, the jam band framework. But I'd say like 99% of what we were doing was trying to break out of that. And still retain a fan base. And I think the people who still came out for us were really into it.
Yeah.
Because they knew that we were doing something different.
Yeah, definitely something different.
Yeah, especially like the last like 2 to 3 years. And then especially with this last album, when I listened back to it, I'm just like, yeah, this is like truly what we were like trying to convey.
Yeah, feels like you.
Yeah, because if you listen to like the EP or even Inner Peaks before that, it's this one's like just so much different.
Yeah.
In a good way, for sure. Like we grew a lot and learned a lot. And I'm definitely happy for that. But now this is like it's like a much needed break, I think, that we're taking now. And who knows, like we might come back and do some more stuff. Band's not dead. It's just like, you know, just taking a break. People wanted to travel. People wanted to do new things. I wanted to, you know, do some new things, which I didn't realize at first. But I definitely like, you know, it's like kind of like a blessing in disguise kind of thing. Like I said, to just like open my playing up with different people and find new sounds and new techniques and, yeah, just you know, a new way of thinking.
Yeah, just to explore a bit. And I guess, like you said before, now everybody is taking this break too. So
yeah, so now the world's on break. So this kind of leads me to another thing where yeah, this whole world on break thing is basically pushing people to just reprioritize, you know? If you think about it, and what's going to be interesting is when we come out of this, there's not going to be like back to normal. That's just not going to be a thing anymore. It's going to be a new normal, right? There's still going to be shows, and there's still going to be, going out to dinner and all that kind of stuff, but it's going to be different. It's not going to be the same. And I'm kind of looking forward to that. I'm optimistic that people will kind of put this into a new framework for themselves. It's kind of like getting a software update on your computer or something like that. You know, we're literally infected with a virus right now, so like your computer has a virus right now. The world has a virus. You need to update your software or let it crash completely to get rid of the virus. Right. So, I kind of been thinking about this as like a software update where, your computer's still going to remain the same. Like you're pretty much going to remain the same. But at the same time, when you come out of it, when we're finished updating, there's going to be some new features. There's going to be a new platform to work with, even though on the outside, like it might all look the same, except like I might be growing my hair a little longer or something like that. But there's going to be, I think people are like reprioritizing and thinking, kind of going back to basics. I mean, I feel like I have been at least kind of going back to basics.
For sure.
Like fundamentals, again, like I mentioned before, fundamentals are like really important to me, to my practicing, especially. And I hope everyone does that. I haven't really been feeling like there's so many people being like, like I'm freaking out. Like, I can't believe I'm just like stuck inside. I don't know what to do. I'm just like staring out the window all day. And I'm like, do you not have like a hobby or anything? Like, I know like I'm fortunate and we're fortunate to have like music and we play and that takes up like a good amount of like what I've been doing the last month or two.
That can consume all of your time.
For sure. And they're like, we're fortunate to have that. But like, I think this is a good thing. I mean, as terrible as the things that are happening and the thousands of people dying and, all this, this public health crisis, like it's there. I sincerely think there's a silver lining in this where people will come out because we haven't had a collective human experience like this in this our generation or really anyone's generation, unless you lived through the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic. Like no one's been through a collective experience like this. So I'm hoping that when we come out of this, that there will be like a bigger sense of community, togetherness, that kind of thing. And just kind of not taking some things for granted, like stuff like food at the grocery store, just like paper towels and toilet paper, like being there like all the time. Like we've only known that stuff for, I don't know, like 100 years, like, since maybe a little more since like the Industrial Revolution or something like that, of just like always having
whatever you want, whenever you want it.
Yeah, pretty much like within arm's reach and stuff like that. We like seriously took that for granted. And I was taking that for granted too. I remember like when this first hit, I went to like Target. Wasn't even really thinking about the virus yet. I was just going to Target to get like a water filter for my like Brita or something.
Yeah.
And it was like just when like people were starting to like bulk buy and panic buy and stuff like that. And when I saw like no toilet paper on the shelves and like no over the counter medicine and no wipes and whatever, I like got this anxiety that like I don't really get anxiety. Like I don't really have that kind of problem, fortunately. But like it hit me like so hard, like just like what is going on? It's just a really freaky
something I never saw either. Just like, I remember the first time I saw it, all the hand sanitizer gone. It was like at the very beginning, but I was, I just have never seen that.
Yeah, it's a super odd thing to encounter.
Yeah.
Because you just expect it to be there.
Right.
And I'm sure the store wasn't like completely like out of it. They just weren't putting more on the shelves. But you look in that and you're like, what's going to happen next? Kind of thing.
Yeah, like at a drugstore, it's just like, yeah, you're expecting there to be that stuff there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. Definitely everybody is going to have a much different perspective after this, just from, having to live so much differently for this. And
yeah,
definitely just being able to even socialize, people will probably appreciate more.
Yeah, it's a big wake up call. I think people are realizing too that with some of the jobs that they're doing, that a lot of it can be done like from home.
Yeah.
That kind of thing too. I'm really hoping a lot of people who were stuck in, dead end 9 to 5s, like I was last year, and then got out of it, like, pre-pandemic. I'm hoping those people kind of wake up and realize that they can start their side hustle that they've been trying to start, whether it's just like selling something or maybe creating an album. Like right now I don't know if this is like a true side hustle or anything, but I'm like trying to put together a record of mostly kind of beat tape kind of stuff. I've been listening to a lot of hip hop records actually recently.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been trying to like collab with some people and do kind of some short recordings that are mostly, like I said, kind of like beat tape kind of stuff where I'm like playing live drums, but there's like a bunch of layers to it. And what I found really interesting too is like I listen to a bunch of records at home, and sometimes my records, I've just been fortunate that sometimes these records like skip in a perfect loop. And so I recorded some of them doing this endless loop and kind of found the BPM and lined it up and then played over it. And so now I have like some of these songs I've been creating have these record samples. And then like I just try to create a song like over that kind of thing.
That's sweet.
Yeah, I'll send you some of it. It's very in like its infantile stages right now.
Yeah.
Nothing's mixed or anything really.
So like experimenting a lot more with just like recording stuff at home.
Yeah, I've done some home recordings. I don't have good mics, unfortunately. Like I record sometimes with just this 58, which I know is like sacrilege, but but I mean, sometimes it gets the job done. Like
they definitely can get the job done.
I go to my rehearsal space sometimes, which is about like 10 minutes away, and shack up there a little bit, which is nice because it's like pretty much isolated, and I just like bring the garage door down. You've been there.
Yeah.
And do it there sometimes and record drums, and I have like a MIDI keyboard here that I can just plug in. I got a bass guitar here. So yeah.
Can your interface have, can you plug 2 mics in?
Yeah, I have a 4-channel interface right here.
Cause I was going to say like, even if you just mic the kick and then just have an overhead, that's like enough to make like a,
yeah.
I mean,
no, that's what I did. Yeah.
Okay. Cause like, yeah, if you can just get the thump and the overhead you can do a lot with just that for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think I've been looking into getting these like omnidirectional mics, like large diaphragm room mics that would pick up that sound pretty well. Because with the 58s and like stuff like that, it's hard to manipulate when you're trying to mix. Because I have tried to mix some of them, and there's just a lot of bleeding, obviously, and it's hard to get like kind of like you said, a good thump from the bass drum or something like that. When you're trying to like mix the highs out of it or something like that.
Yeah.
It's a little tough to manipulate. So I've been looking into getting other mics, but at the same time, I'm like not making much money right now. So like, I don't want to blow a bunch of money on mics.
Yeah.
So, like I said, like going back to priorities, like, do I really need this kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Kind of like make do with what I have. Cause it doesn't sound bad, but it could sound better.
I mean, that's like, I always think about the Wolfpack drum recording setups that they have in their videos. They're super minimal, and it's like I noticed they hardly ever use cymbals, and I wonder if that's just like,
yeah, they're pretty minimalist, like just like kick, snare, hi-hat, maybe a ride cymbal, that kind of thing.
I think one of their other projects, that was like a kick mic, and then they had one mic like over the snare that was also, you know, picking up the hi-hat and stuff.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how much you can get done with just 2 mics.
Yeah.
You don't need an 8-channel or 16-channel interface and like mic up like everything. It's just, you know, like top, bottom, snare. Like that's what we had at like CMU, like recording with.
Yeah. Can get hard when you have kick front, kick back, top snare, bottom snare.
Yeah, like I had 2 kick mics like when we were recording Nomen, like, which was cool because we were able to matrix them and get like a really nice defined kick sound. But you know, but that was like the CMU has a bunch of money and state of the art equipment, so you know, use it if you have it. But if you don't, you know, if you're just trying to do a home studio thing, then
don't let it
like
hold you back.
Yeah, 2 mics is totally fine. So yeah, I've been trying to put together some tracks. Probably going to work on it probably when we leave here, and also sending it out to people and be like, hey, you know, like what can you throw over this?
Yeah, the Steve Ippolito drum loop pack.
Yeah, I actually thought about that too, but I haven't done too much with that. But yeah, so like I send it out to Dante, get some of his stuff on there, like his weird ambient stuff. Nice. And my buddy Brad, who I play with, he's a trumpet player. He sent back some cool stuff. Yeah, just trying to collab and just like make something new, like something that I've never tried before. And that was the kind of point of like, you know, being here, like especially just alone, like I'm just in my apartment alone, like, you know, 24/7 mostly, unless I go outside and take a walk, whatever. You know, just like I have to do something. Yeah. Can't just watch reruns of the Chappelle Show all day or something like that.
Right.
Which I have been.
Right.
But
you can only do that for so long.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the advice I'd give to people who are like, I'm so bored, like just staring out the window. It's just like, well, just get creative and try to find something else to do. Just get off your ass and try to just find something to do. Even if it's a
really good time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the best time. It's a time that you're never probably going to have again.
That's true. Yeah.
Possibly in your life, to just like really like look inside and, like I said, reprioritize, you know, kind of like update your system, do something new. And I know like not everyone's going to have the mental capacity to do that. Like I get that. And not every day is going to be like you're going to be on what you're doing. And I recognize that, you know, it's to just be at home all day and kind of like not see a purpose to what you're doing, kind of thing. So like I get that. Like I have days like a couple days ago, like I didn't want to do anything, and I really didn't do anything. Like I woke up at like 1 p.m. and then just kind of slothed around the house and like went outside, and like I don't even think I played drums that day, you know. But most days like I'm playing, trying to record a little bit, cooking, reading, just trying to keep the mind occupied, exercising, trying to build some immunity up, taking cold showers, doing that breathing exercise we do. Just like I said, just trying to, you got to just try new things. Yeah. Like I said, like this is really the only time in your life that you're going to have this extended, I mean, I'm not thinking of it as a vacation. It's not a vacation. It's like a rest period. It's like a reevaluation period. It's not like a vacation at all.
Yeah. It's definitely a really great time to learn something, or if you can find something that's like exciting or interesting for you to learn, then you're golden.
Yeah, I heard that even like a few universities have put courses out online for free.
Oh, wow.
If you were ever interested in like doing something that they're offering, you know, something like that. Just, you know, if you had a piano in your house, like sitting collecting dust, like pop that thing open and maybe start just plucking around and try to play, you know, something like that.
I think
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
I think I've been thinking about trying to learn how to use Ableton, trying to switch to Ableton during this time, because I use Logic and Ableton. I've been like wanting to switch to it, but I've never taken the time to really get comfortable with it. So anytime I try and use it, I end up just like going back to the program that I know. But
right.
yeah, it's definitely a good opportunity to do stuff like that, I guess, that you might have been putting off. But
yeah, like I for putting off trying to like record, basically. It's just ideas that I had. So now I'm just like, yeah, I'm definitely going to do that now. And also just get better at just playing, just shedding a lot. Listening sometimes, excuse me, just like in the morning. And because for some reason, like I would always play music like in the morning and just listen. But now, like, just like really listening and analyzing, like putting the phone somewhere else, just sitting down, listening to a record, both sides, having a cup of coffee, and just sitting and just listening like I'm just sitting here now, basically, with no extra stimulus, not even reading, just taking in like the music. Thinking about either like the production or the playing or whatever. I never really, I mean, I've definitely done that, but haven't done it in a long time. So it's kind of a nice thing to do.
Same. Yeah.
It's refreshing.
Makes a big difference, between that and passive listening where I'm doing something else.
Yeah. I was doing a lot of passive listening.
She's still
at home.
Still get something out of that, but it's definitely different when you're allowing yourself to kind of get absorbed.
Exactly. And I try to do it. I try to listen to, like I said, mostly records that I have, because those aren't in any digital format. So I don't need my computer or anything and getting distracted by that. Or maybe I'll put my phone on the speakers so it's over there and I'm here.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And just trying to absorb that way. You just think differently. It's nice not to, because for some reason I was always in the mindset, like, pre-corona, that I would have to, like, even if I was listening to music, like I felt like I should be doing something as well.
Mm-hmm.
Either cleaning or I don't know, like just doing like just life stuff, like taxes or I don't know, something stupid. But no, you don't really need to. And now that you have the time to do that, just put on your favorite record, just sit down and, get like a cup of coffee or something and like a good record and just hang for as long as the record is.
I used to do that more. That's something, that I want to do more of too.
Yeah. It's very cathartic. For sure. What speaking of records, what have like you been listening to?
I think the last record that one of the last ones that stuck with me was Breezin' by
Benson?
Yeah.
Nice.
Which I hadn't really listened to that much. Like I just recently got like the record and was able to listen to the whole thing.
That's a good one.
Yeah, side B. I really like side B on that one, or side 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
And then, other than that, I've been listening to some like DJ mixes and stuff. Like I don't even know what genre it is, like tech house or something. I've been trying to like figure out how to produce that kind of music better, and I don't know what records. What's that? Oh God, we were listening to a good one yesterday. Immortal Orchestra or something. Have you ever heard of that? Immortal Orchestra.
Kind of sounds familiar. Is it new?
I have no idea. Nick put it on, and that was pretty sweet. Yeah, I don't know.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Breezin'. So Breezin', I don't know if you knew this, but Breezin' is actually a cover. The original composer of Breezin' was a guitarist named Gabor Szabo. You ever heard of him?
No.
Yeah, check him out. If you just Google Gabor Szabo, his last name is Szabo. Yeah. Szabo, Gabor Szabo. I think he's like Hungarian or something, like some kind of Eastern European. He very underrated player, really cool. He's got like this interesting, like almost gypsy guitar kind of style, and influenced a lot of guitar players. Like especially like Santana credits him a lot as like one of his influences, especially like his early stuff. Yeah, Benson covered that and made it popular, but it was really Gabor's composition.
It's crazy how many people covered other people's songs back in the 60s, 50s and 60s. Like everybody was playing everybody else's songs. It was like a much more common thing, I feel like.
Yeah, probably because the rights to get the songs like weren't as expensive or something, and yeah, there was just like a lot of versions. I mean, especially when it comes to like jazz standards, there's so many versions of like this one like jazz standard.
Yeah.
And I mean, I guess that's why they're called standards now. But yeah, that is pretty interesting that people would do that. And then what's funny is like, with Benson, like you thought that was his song, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many of them still finding out today. It's just like, wait, what? They didn't actually write that.
Yeah, it blew my mind when I kind of learned that about like every Motown hit. Most of them are written by just like a handful of the same writers, regardless of like which band was the one recording it.
Yeah.
Or just how many like popular songs were, the songwriter was not the performer, I guess. Like they were two separate things that kind of worked together, but
right, it was kind of like the record label hired this team of songwriters that would like bust out all these hits, and then they would give it to the performer to sing.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Yeah, like do you know Carole King? Do you listen to her at all?
Mm-mm.
She's great, and she has a bunch of hits just on her own, but she also wrote a bunch of like Motown hits, like you were talking about. Like she wrote like The Locomotive, you know that song? You're like, do the locomotion. Oh, The Locomotion, excuse me.
Sounds familiar, but
yeah, if you look it up, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But she like wrote that one, and then she went on and had like her own solo career, and the song You Got a Friend that is like pretty often covered by James Taylor.
Okay, yeah, I thought that was his.
Yeah, no, it's a Carole King song. And I mean, yeah, exactly. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. So he mostly made it popular. But him and Carole King were like really good friends. So he ended up covering it and like blew it up more so than she ever did. Although that album that was on, she ended up winning like album of the year for that one, and like record of the year. Yeah, check out Carole King. The album I'm talking about is called Tapestry. That one is like one of my top 5 super, I would say like raw albums that you don't really hear too much. Like just like extremely good songwriting, really focused emotional songwriting coming from this album called Tapestry. It was like made in 1971, I think. Nice. But like I said, before that, she cut her teeth doing all these other songs that later became like some Motown hits. And I'd have to pull up a list of like some of the stuff, but it's crazy how much she contributed to like the music scene before even she became like a solo artist.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll check that out.
Yeah. Kind of want to look up what she wrote even before Tapestry. Yeah, that album's great, man. definitely give that a spin.
What have you been listening to recently?
So I go back to that album a lot. Really like that one. And like I said, hip hop stuff. Let's see what's on my phone.
I have such a hard time answering that question. I always suck at that question. Like I need to look too.
And I have been for a while, but I'm super into Erykah Badu. There's this one album that I always go back to, just called Erykah Badu Live or Baduism Live. And I've been listening to that album since like probably early college or high school. And funny enough, the great Poogie Bell is the drummer on that album.
Oh, interesting.
And he was he was one of like Erykah's first drum hires, like when she was like starting to tour with a live band. And that album like taught me how to groove, man. He's amazing.
Erykah Badu.
It's like Live 1997, I think.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. What else? So going along with hip hop, listening to like Jay Dilla. Do you know him?
I know the name, but I've never like explored his music.
He was the one that like basically made beat tapes popular, and you know, all the guys now that basically have that like Akai sampler. Yeah, like he made that like really popular and is like hailed as like one of the best like hip hop producers of all time.
Yeah, I definitely.
And he would like take record samples and splice them up and make beats out of them and program beats and like stuff like that. So his beat tapes are really cool. The one album I'm listening to right now is called The Shining. The classic one he's really known for is called Donuts.
Oh, nice.
What else? This really cool Stan Getz record called Focus. Stan Getz is a jazz saxophonist, and the album's called Focus, where he plays with strings. He's got like string arrangements behind him. It's been really cool. I've been trying to dip into a little more classical music too.
I've only listened to the one he did with Getz and Gilberto. That one.
Oh, Getz Jobim. Yeah, that's a classic. Love that one. Still go back to that one too.
Anomaly. I've been really liking his music recently.
I think I've heard of that guy.
He's like a Canadian. It's like a electro jazz. He's crazy keyboard player.
Huh.
Really like his stuff.
Nice. I'll check him out. Betty Davis, the ex-wife of Miles Davis in the 70s, also had her own record career, and she put out a really good record. It's just straight funk, like reminds me of like Sly and the Family Stone a little bit, called They Say I'm Different. That album's really good.
Nice.
Really cool record there. That's kind of what inspired Miles Davis to go on and do more like what his 70s sound ended up being, which was more funky and kind of like quote unquote jammy. They would just, improvise for a while, you know, basically.
That's someone I haven't really listened to much of.
When you listen to Miles's 70s and late 60s electric bands, because he, basically brought everything from like acoustic bebop stuff to electric playing, because he even started putting effects on his trumpet and brought in like guitars and all that stuff, electric guitars and all that stuff. And that's when like the Rhodes came out. So like he had that. Those albums like inspired the what we now know as the jam scene. Well, like the early, like they even inspired like the Grateful Dead and Fish and two big ones right there. And other bands like Aquarium Rescue Unit. If you've ever heard of them. So he had a big, like when you hear that stuff, you're like, oh yeah, this is kind of like the beginnings of, well, I mean, it's the beginnings of like hip hop. It's the beginnings of like kind of like jam.
Yeah. Ah, man.
He really set the framework for a lot of stuff.
I got that feeling when I listened to this album called Sun Goddess by
Ramsey Lewis.
Yeah. I remember hearing that, and like Headhunters, just being like, whoa, this sounds, I can like hear the influence in modern bands.
Right. Yeah.
Or like the roots of it.
Yes, for sure. Herbie, I've been listening to a bunch of Herbie Hancock too.
He's so much stuff.
Yeah, he's pretty. One album I do on repeat is called Mr. Hands, 1980 Mr. Hands.
I'll have to check that out.
That one's pretty tight. Jaco Pastorius is on one of those tracks. Not the whole album, but that's a good one. Herbie laid down a lot of foundation for what we know as hip hop in the 90s, especially. He laid down a lot of that. Not unwillingly, people just kind of, they sampled him, that's like what happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of other jazz records. It's pretty crazy, the connection there.
Jazz and hip hop.
They're very much related.
I mean, definitely like Watermelon Man, like when the beat drops in and that, just like that feel is very hip hop to me.
Yeah, sure. Definitely. Yeah. And that just came from, I don't really know exactly where their inspiration came from, but probably like a lot of people credit Sly and the Family Stone as like one of the first funk bands out there.
Another one I never dug into. Not like, I don't mean dug as in like, just like never listened to a lot.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
Like I'm not familiar with their catalog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
It's a lot of bands.
It's a lot out there.
Yeah. So, let me ask you one more question.
Yeah.
Before we wrap it up here. Just curious, what is your, I don't know, when you think about what your future with music, like how do you see that playing out ideally, or like what's your kind of, is there any particular path you're looking to take as a musician? In terms of, I guess, I don't know, there's a couple different, performing with a band full time, or studio stuff, or teacher.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, at first I thought I would be with a band for like this single band being the clock, forever. And we would just keep touring and touring until we wanted to call it quits or something like that. But now, like, since we take a break and, I've kind of reevaluated, I kind of want to, in a way, and I know this sounds kind of dumb, but just like go with the flow in a way. And, kind of like how I mentioned before, just try to dip my hand into a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And cause like I said, I think that's the only way to really diversify your sound and to get like a full, like, complete musical knowledge, and education, is to really just try a little bit of everything, cause you're not going to like it unless you try it, or, you don't even know if you're going to like it unless you try it, kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, if I don't know if studio work is the thing that calls me. Like if someone wants me to record with them, like sure, I'll do it. But like I don't know if I see myself being that on-call studio guy all the time. I mean, that could change, I don't know. Like I said, it's kind of really depending on like who I might meet in the future. At the moment, I kind of see myself just as a sideman for a lot of for a lot of projects. Like I do have like a trio that I, have under my name, but it's mostly just to play local gigs around Pittsburgh and to like, I'm not really writing any original music for that. I have like a couple ideas in mind, but they haven't really been fleshed out for the trio yet. So yeah, I think just trying to broaden my musical horizons by like playing with everyone who would want to have me. And if I by chance, hook up with another band that like really takes off, then stick with that for a while. Kind of maybe like ride that wave. I think I'm just kind of like taking it as it comes, like one day at a time, kind of with this pandemic, like just taking it one day at a time, like not getting lost in all the information that's out there, that kind of thing. I think when like a wave comes, like you should definitely ride it and see what happens. But at the same time, kind of just have like an eye open for what else is also out there. So yeah, I'm not like pigeonholing myself into one thing. I think I'm capable of doing a lot of different things. Like I remember the last Wilkins block party I played, I forget if you were there, but we did that People's Orchestra thing with Benny Rossman, like from Starship, and
I don't remember seeing that. Wait, People's Orchestra.
Yeah, it was called the People's Orchestra.
I did play one block party, and the Clock Reads and Starship were both there, but I don't remember the People's Orchestra.
That year, the Clock wasn't on it.
Okay, so I wasn't there then.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so we did a like a super group thing. It was like Benny and Chris from Starship and me on drums, and then we brought like special guests up from other bands that had either already played or didn't play or whatever, and we like featured them. And we had some like horn players and stuff like that. And that music was all over the map. Like at one point, we were doing like a disco tune, and then we did like an R&B tune, and then we did then I played a trap like rap tune. Like 'cause we brought like a rapper up, and that was the first time I had ever done like trap music in a way.
Yeah.
And backed up a rapper. So that was like really cool. And then when like I got off, like I remember a friend came up to me. He's like, "Dude, like I didn't know you could play all that stuff." And I'm thinking yeah, like I can. I just like don't. I just haven't had the opportunity to. So that like kind of opened my eyes and was like, you know what? I definitely have the ability to really play anything. Maybe not anything and everything, but I have the ability to branch out and do things that I didn't think I could, like, trap music, for instance, which I don't listen to at all, but like understand like some of the mechanics there and stuff like that.
So it's kind of a matter of figuring out what you find to be the most like interesting or fulfilling for you.
Yeah. Right now, the most fulfilling is like playing, jazz gigs mostly, especially with like Brad Fritcher. He's got a really cool project that's more like modern jazz / a little bit of hip hop here and there kind of thing. We kind of like, take some old jazz standards and turn them on their head and do different arrangements and stuff like that. Like that's the stuff where I excel more and shed more is, the jazz kind of thing. I don't even like calling it really that anymore though, because it's not like what really we play all the time. We definitely swing, but it's not always like that. It's probably like 20% of what we do.
Wait, shed more?
Oh no, like swing, like during those gigs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's why I say like the word jazz is kind of like dead to me in a way, because it's not like if you're trying to explain that like what you do to someone who isn't a music nerd or a musician, like then I say like, oh, we play jazz. But if it's someone who like understands where I'm getting at, then like I'd kind of like describe like more of the modern sound we're getting at. Yeah. So like I would like to push in that direction because I think I excel on that stuff. But like I said, I'm open to really anything. Like I said, wherever kind of the wave kind of takes me.
Yeah.
And and tosses me, in a different direction. Anything could happen in like even a year's time. I think a lot's happened just in the last 5-6 months. Before, pre-corona, I think a lot happened already, to kind of set me up to do different things. Like I'm getting calls from people that I would never gotten calls from before, which is, pretty cool.
Yeah.
And worked with people like I've never worked with before. So so it's nice. It's refreshing. So like I said, I'm not trying to kind of like box myself in at all into like I need to get another band to tour with or something like that.
Right.
Like I did that already, and that was awesome. And it might happen again, but it's like not what I'm looking to now.
Right.
I'm looking to just kind of better myself as an individual. Just try to create this is a lifetime goal, but cultivate my own sound.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Which is, like I said, it's a lifelong process.
For sure. Yeah.
So
cool. Yeah. That's always a question I'm thinking about. So
the future is very open-ended. Obviously can't predict it. But like I mentioned before, this is a good time now to kind of hash out what direction you might want to go in, or to at least start pushing in. I've been thinking about that a lot.
For sure.
Part of the reason why like I'm recording a little bit, maybe see what happens with that, like if people like that and respond to that, or and obviously just keeping up on my craft. I'm going to do this the rest of my life. So, a lot of stuff can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Anything else you'd like to add?
Wash your hands.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I just hope everyone stays safe out there, and hopefully we can do this sometime in person. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully this turns out okay. I know like the audio I was recording from this mic was like, it like kept stopping for some reason, but so I might have to like switch to this GoPro audio from, I don't know.
Oh, right. Yeah. Let me know how it turns out, man.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the cut.
Yeah. So there might be some sections missing in there, but this is a long conversation, so there should be plenty of stuff.
Sweet. Sounds good.
Cool. Well, have a great rest of your day, and if you have some loops or anything, or messing around with recordings or whatever.
Yeah, I'll have to send you some stuff.
Feel free to.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get on that tonight a little bit. I'm probably gonna go get whatever sunlight is out there right now. It looks pretty cloudy, but
oh yeah,
I just haven't been outside all day, so I'm gonna go.
You probably got another 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
Yeah, I'm gonna go stroll around the neighborhood a little bit and see what's good. Keep my distance.
Shady Side?
Friendship. Well, I walk around in Friendship. I live in Garfield, but it's like
yeah,
it's right there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
All good. All right, man. Yeah, thanks for calling.
Yeah. Thanks for being on. Sorry for the technical difficulties.
No worries.
All right. Take care, man. See ya.
All right, man. Yeah. Peace.